Okay, I'm Ray Kaderli, and we're here with Tim White on the job site, and we're going to do a little bit of a walk around. Now, Tim, tell us about, you're doing natural building, and then you are the actual designer on this project as well as the builder. Tell us about the client and what they asked for, and then what we're going to take a look at here today.
Yeah, thank you, Ray. Tim White. The clients called me a year ago, and they were like, we need to get into a new house. They understood that they didn't want the regular box that we get in the marketplace today. And they called me and we talked numbers, and we talked about the reality of numbers in 2024. They sat on that for 6-8 months, and then they called me the 15th of November. And Clinton is, Tim, we need a house. You need to come out here. So I came out that weekend, looked at it. That was the weekend before Thanksgiving. And they're like, yeah, that's great. We understand the cost and everything like that. I was like, great. Well, I will sketch up some designs that you want that fit with the Texas Healthy Homes philosophy. Smaller windows, passive solar design. We're going to have a porch on the east side that's covered, so we create outdoor space for people. And so I drew them up a couple sketches, sent them a couple of photos, and they're like, yeah, we like this, we like this. I was like, great, I'll go talk to my designer. He'll put it into a CAD program or a computer program so that it's easier for us to communicate and I can get bids on it. And we were done with that the day after Thanksgiving. They had signed all of our contracts by Saturday after Thanksgiving. And then we were out here that Monday starting to cut grade on this.
Nice.
And we've been here now from cutting grade on this project, 36 working days with 3 people.
That's amazing, and we've got a lot of progress for that time. And what we're going to talk about in our walk around is what some of those steps look like, how involvement can be. Tim will talk a little bit about workshopping this and what that looks like. But before we do that on our walk around, you had something exciting to share because you had a really cool window detail in that Hondo project, and you were going to show us how you achieved that.
Well, and that's a part about being efficient. We already know that our cost is on the edge of being competitive, but what do we do to cut a little bit of things out here and there? And so on that Hondo project, we had nice window rolls. Well, how do we cut out coming back and cutting that material out? A lot of that has to do with the framing. And so inside here, and this is their laundry room, you could see here, these are the forms that we're using to support the sides of our hempcrete cast in place. All right? This is our form that we have down here just to support where we're going to put a sill and to support this side form. What we did on that side form, now that we're done here, is we can pull it out and we can see here, Ray, that we've taken a regular 2x4, cut a couple of 45-degree angles off of it.
Nice and simple.
Then we take and put a form on the side that's going to be here to support it. We can take this one now and we're going to use it in another opening that we already have. So we don't have to do every opening. Now we've got this section right here where we've already created the start of our roll.
Right.
And everybody's like, oh, what about those sharp edges? Since it's still soft and pliable, we can come in and just tamp those soft edges down, or those sharp edges down.
And now how many days is this?
We did this today.
This is today, and so you're taking it off, it'll self-support, and then you can still mold it. If you want to take a little bit away, you could. If you want to tamp it in, you can.
So on this wall here that we started yesterday morning, Ray, before the end of the day, and that was our second 4-day hempcrete introduction to hemp building seminar that we did on site with 2 class participants, 5 crew. We were able to do 1, 2, 3 high in one day.
That's a lot.
Jumping up. And then we took the rest of this wall up today.
And so this is a good example of how these slip forms end up. Tell us a little bit about these slip forms, because this is a good example of how one supports the other, and then you just leapfrog all the way up, and then at the top you just skip and then meet it. Talk a little bit about that.
So our slip forms, it's kind of hard to see on these, but they come up a ½ inch above the top of the form. So when you put the next one in, it locks it in and gives it rigidity all the way along. Our 2x4s are on edge, so they're very rigid. So we're able to go attachment point here, attachment point there. We're under an 8-foot span, so we cut them down. We cut them at angles at the top so that they can actually slide in together and fit in that space.
Yeah, I see these are nice and angled more than a 45 so that you don't want them to join, you want them to just not be fighting each other but still have a rigid line. And then if we'll follow along, let's walk along on the outside, and then the camera can stay up here and you can see this final run of these, and then you come down here to the end and you can see what Tim is talking about.
And up here at the top, where they come together and there's not a support, we just attach a little piece of 2x4 along there, screw it into the edge, screw it together, Ray, at the top here where these two forms come together. And now we've created a rigid, continuous piece of 2x.
And then what's underneath is supporting what's above, and all you need to do is come down just a little bit. But you can see up here how this board gives it the rigidity that you're after, and then it makes a little channel for this to come down, and the one above it comes down in there and gets support. This is brilliant. This saves a lot of time and
Well,
headache.
better yet, Ray, that's 1/2-inch ply, not 5/8.
Yeah, so you're not fighting it and there's no weight.
Well, it's cheaper.
Yeah, cost and functionality.
And we use these same forms for our foundation. And then we retooled them, changed where the 2x4s are, made them into slip forms, and when we get done, they will end up being our back porch decking for our roof. And so we've got one piece of plywood that shows up. We use it 3 different times. We've got less plywood than us wrapping the whole house.
Right.
And then what do you do with that plywood after you get done doing your cast in place?
Take them, cart them away, whatever, but you're using it on the project.
And we're using it 3 times.
Brilliant, yeah. And then so you've saved money for having the concrete guy come out with the forms and stuff like that. You're not paying them to do that and the other and the other and the other. You're making use of one thing, and then it goes away into the project. You're not in the form storage business. You just show up, you use one thing several times. Brilliant.
Yeah, and it's that type of stuff, that's like, those are things that move the industry forward, Ray.
Yeah. Just a little nugget that saves you a step in each and every project. So.
And in that process, we're really simplifying our design. And if you can get to simplifying your design, that's why we do our own design work.
Right.
Because I can't get an architect to give me a simple design.
So nobody gets carried away wanting to make a name or make something too fancy, because now you have to have somebody who's doing the work or has done the work knowing how to design something to where you're not designing a headache for somebody else. And so all those things need to come together. And so
well, and at this point in time with this, the same crew that is working on that wall is the same crew that's got to plaster it and take it to a finish. So there's no passing the buck.
Yeah.
If we pass a buck, we pass it on to ourselves.
Yeah. Whereas in framing, you don't worry, the drywaller's going to cover it. And then the drywallers don't worry, the painter's going to cover it. It's always passing the buck to the next person, and on we go. Okay, so we're talking about some of the job site efficiency and a few of the details that just make a job site work better, flow better, be better. Talk a little bit about how you take the hempcrete once it's mixed up and get it into the work zone, because that's something that is an ergonomic achievement for you.
Right. So first off, our mixer is on our skid steer. So we mix over there and we bring it over here. The nice thing about having it on a mixer on the skid steer is that you've got 8 feet of elevation you can go up or more. So you can take stuff up and bring it down with hydraulics and then never take it to the ground.
Yeah.
So we mix over there, they drive over here. This is what we call kind of our transfer station, our dump station. They dump the material out up top there and we clean it with some garden hose. And then it gets pulled down into those totes. And then the people getting material moved, they can turn around and set it right here. And then we have runners to take it to wherever we need to. We can take it and hand it up here. We can go through the doorway to the other side. Or tomorrow when we get here, they'll just be dumping into forms that we're getting ready to set up right here for this wall.
Yeah, and I'll make note that these buckets are the perfect size to fit right on your rafter spacing up there. I imagine that's on purpose, because if you've ever had to wrestle that hempcrete off the ground in the mixer over to there, and then you're kind of taking it and by hand into the, it's like, no, dump it in there. And so everything becomes easier and quicker, and those little things magnified over a whole project are insanely efficient.
Well, on my first project, Ray, I had some large totes, and then we now have the small ones. And I had a couple of female workers, very independent women, and they were like, these are too heavy. I was like, don't fill them so full.
Oh, yeah.
They could not fill them full.
Yeah, so those black totes that you get at Home Depot, those aren't the ones.
What we ended up doing, I was like, okay, and they were always complaining about being wore out. So that evening, I went and ran down to Home Depot, and I grabbed me another dozen small ones. I went back to the job site and jumped on the big ones so they could break them. So they weren't available anymore. And now they just had little ones. And so no matter how full they filled the little one, it didn't overweight them.
And if you're turning a corner and it's taken 30 minutes, well, now you've got a smaller batch that's not drying out in the tote, go to lunch, this, that,
and at the end of the day, Ray, when I got workers, I need them to be able to work all day. If they wear themselves out on day 3, I don't have them for day 4 and day 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if it's because they keep filling the big ones fuller than they can handle because they don't want to, like, not fill it so full because it makes them feel less or whatever, just give them a small one.
Yep.
So we just do small ones, and it's plenty. They're easy to move and everything like that.
Now, you've got some big openings. We'll talk about those in a little bit, but tell us a little bit about how you achieve the rigidity in your racking and then the whole wall system that you've got it here, because it's amazing. I'll share some of the other video of where you got a 2x4 and are just going at this thing. But talk a little bit about that on the design and the execution and what you've got here in these walls.
Right, and so this design comes off of a lot of straw bale buildings that we built up in Colorado. We got a 2x4 post pack over there on the corner. Up on top, we've got a LVL beam up at the top, but we don't have one up there, do we, Ray? We got 2.
Yeah, there's 2 sandwiched together. That's amazing.
So you know how much load that can carry.
All of it, yeah.
Yeah, forever and a day. And then we do 2 or 3 2x4s. We need 2 every 8 feet. Well, we've got an extra big opening here where we don't have a window, so we threw a double 2x4 in there. We come over here to this side, and we've got a 2x6 on the outside, and on the inside where our window is, we have a 2x4. So we got a double post there and a double post there. And a lot of people are like, Tim, well, why do you do a 2x6 and then a 2x4 on the inside? Well, you just saw how easy it was to take that form off.
Oh, yeah.
If I had 2 2x4s or 2 2x6s to attach this form, I would have to screw another piece of wood to attach it to something.
Or if you want to have like a squared out window bunk, then you would have to do, a 2x12, rip it down or whatever that. More expensive wood, different design look. Yeah, different design look as well. And so,
the frame comes from what we did with straw bale, and then we'd have metal Simpson bracts, like brace, the long straps, like they're doing up at the Lower Sioux tribe with their panel systems that they're doing.
Right.
And then they got to do the metal. Well, as a plasterer, hemp to metal back to hemp, that's an expansion and contraction that can crack the plaster. It's another thing we have to buy at Home Depot too.
Yeah.
So in this system, though, since we got a 1 thick wall and a 9 1/4 inch thick wall on the inside, we're able to take and bury that bracing inside the wall cavity.
And so that's what we have over here.
Right, and this is just a 2x6 bracing to give us a little bit more lateral shear there. And then in our corners over here, we went to 2x8s for our bracing here and here. This little 90-degree channel with the 2x4s, nothing structural. It's here to hold our forms for the inside.
That's just a receiver and a rail, if you will, for the slip forms, and then that's what you put in every so often. When you put it in over here, then you use it to screw off the slip forms on both ends. You've got the rigidity of the 2x4. They leapfrog up, skip the last ones, and then you take that one out. You've got a channel for electric if you want it. If not, you just fill it in, but you've been working free of obstruction in this whole area, and then you bury this in there for rigidity.
Right, and you've got that video of how strong that wall gets.
Yeah.
So for this to snap, it's nigh on impossible.
Yeah.
with it when it's encased in that hempcrete. And it can't slide because then it's got to slide the whole wall.
Right.
And then it comes up into a double LVL that's wrapped all the way around the house. And then we throw a hipped roof system in it instead of a gable. So now our roof system is giving us extra shear rigidity because it's all reinforcing itself.
Yeah,
all
one
the
thing
way
ties
through.
into the other.
Right, and it drops all of our roof lines down because we don't have gables.
Right. And so it works as a system.
Yeah.
Nice. Let's tell us about these window bunks. We've got some that are filled in that you can show over here, some that we've looked at, and then tell us what this looks like as you're coming up to it. How does the crew come in and navigate these slip forms coming in right here? Just screwing into this,
Yep.
leaving this open, bringing your form up here. This is something that was a headache for me before because you were fighting it underneath.
And when we were doing the Hondo project, I laid 2x4s flat like this, and that gave us this much space. And I said, hold it, I got to get more space. So since we've got Sierra Pacific windows that are a metal frame all the way around and supporting each other, we were able to go a 2x4 on edge. Then I went down here to 1.5 by 1.5 pieces of wood. Now we got this huge opening that's easiest for it to get material into it instead of having a little 3-inch opening.
Yeah, and if you've ever come up with a hempcrete underneath, well, now you're just coming up here. It doesn't pack as well.
And now we're coming in here and we just pack there and we don't have 3.5 inches of stuff to deal with.
Bingo, bingo.
And it looks really weak, but you've seen how strong our hempcrete gets. So when this all gets built into place, it's not going anywhere.
Right.
And we're going to do a 2x8 piece of wood on top of this for our sill, so we're going to do a nice big fat sill here. We'll do a little support piece underneath, so it's going to be plenty of structure.
And then this gets left in place
Yep.
to receive your fasteners for that sill or anything else.
We'll actually cut it so our sill goes in here, and then we can screw it in here, and we can screw it out here where the ears come together, and then when we plaster, our screws get buried. So it's screwless,
Nice.
exposed.
Let's talk a little bit about the floors and the beam system that you've got. I like how you've got these beams. I love getting away from a slab. I've done a pier and beam and played around with that. We've got some clay soils, so we're going down deeper. We're out in the hill country where it's a lot more stable on the geo side of things. But walk us through what you've got here, and then we'll go take a look at some of the cool details on the eaves. But this is amazing.
Yeah, so this is just a compacted base on the inside here. We've got a structural grade beam around the outside that's sitting on compacted base on top of bedrock. And that is 12 inches wide by 16 inches deep with 4 pieces of steel and saddles in it. So it's a pretty beefy grade beam for Texas.
Well, let's take a view of the floor as it is, and we'll make our way over here. And then you can see on this job site, this is like a gravel floor. We're walking around. The final finish to this is going to be an earthen, this is the adobe floor that you're talking about, right, Tim?
Yeah, and so this is our finished floor height. We'll do a wood piece of trim or something on our threshold. Our finished coat of material will be about 1/2 to 5/8 of an inch thick. So everything below this, we will do a base adobe floor where we take concrete gravel, concrete sand, and local clay that we dug here, mix it together, scree it in this floor, then we'll let that dry, finish doing our building, and then we'll come in and do a thin 1/2 inch coat that we would float and get on with knee boards, and then we'll do a clay slip over top of that to close up those pores when it dries. And then when all of that's dry, we will take and put 2 coats of a hot oil on it that we get from Heritage, and it's an adobe floor oil, and we heat that up to 240 degrees. We don't let it go down below 170 degrees, and we roll 2 coats of it on one day, stay off of it for 10 days to 2 weeks, come back, move in.
And it's just a beautiful natural look to it.
Right, and it's not as hard as concrete floors, which is really the beauty, but you can mop them, sweep them, drag your furniture over, and that oil just keep getting harder and harder and harder and harder.
And that's easier on our bodies. If you've ever been on a concrete floor all day, getting supplies at Home Depot, I'm ready to get the heck out of there after 30 minutes. And so it's really hard on your joints and your body on there. So talk a little bit about this footer beam around the outside and this detail that you've got, how you have your bottom plates to where they accommodate your slip forms and everything in that nature.
So out here, we just got a regular 2x6 bottom plate, you know, standard conventional, nothing new. We got Simpson brackets and ties and everything all over the place. So we get a continuous tie from our bottom plate to our post. We got the same up top. We got hurricane straps. So now our LVL is tied and our roof is tied all the way down into our foundation. When we come in here, we don't really have any structural load, but we're just doing a little filler. We're doing a little piece here and nailing it down, and we're giving us a 2x here so that we can screw our slip forms down, but we also can nail our baseboard too.
Right, so you got to have something that'll receive that fastener, and you got to have that wood in there somewhere like that.
Yeah.
Take us to this detail on the outside that you were showing me how your fascia trim comes along. This is something nice, and I think we've got where we can get a good angle of it back over here, where this is a metal cap over
Can you get you guys to tarp that herd?
the regular wood.
So up here, there's going to be a porch that comes out here. You know, we didn't put the porch on yet because we still got to do hempcrete and it gets in the way.
Gotcha.
So up here at the top, we've got a fascia detail where we've got 5.5 inches, 1 9/16 inches, and then 1.5 inches up the back side. So that little metal piece slides right up over top of our subfascia. We've got a drip edge that we get from Mueller that they have. It's a nice drip edge. It goes up 5 inches.
Okay, so these are the blocks that we were talking about that go up in the rafters in that top portion. And then Tim, tell us how you make these on the job site and how this is just something that you didn't buy these, they didn't get shipped in, you made them here, they're setting in their curing, getting ready to go in as part of the flow of your rhythm on the hempcrete. And then show us how these are made and what's the sequence of events.
So what we do with these is we use these to test herds in our binders also. That's one thing that we teach in our hands-on class that people come to.
Nice.
Because everybody's like, oh, I want to use this binder and that binder. I don't know your mix ratio. I don't know your herd. But I can set you up on how to make sample batches. Making a form is really good for making samples. We've got this form here that's foot-by-foot blocks that we used on another project because we had a 12-inch wall there.
And complete with handles.
Yeah, handles. And then so if you set that down and you got your block made.
I like your custom made tamper there.
No, this isn't a tamper. This is to hold it in place so that, Ray, when we lift up on each side, we don't tear the block apart.
Gotcha. So you
we're just using little 6, 8-inch earth tampers that you buy at Home Depot.
Gotcha. So that's not the tamper, that's for you to push the popsicle out.
Well, no, it's holding it in place as we lift the form, because if we lifted it up, it would tear apart.
Yeah, and then that keeps a nice even pressure. So now your block comes out. Your block comes out. You can mess with the binder if this is the first thing on the job.
Right. And they're little 12x12s.
Yeah, you're wanting to play with everything.
Right.
This is where you can test it and break it.
Yeah, and up at the top there, we need a block that's going to go in between our rafters, our 2 foot on center. So that's what we made with these longer ones. Again, this is a high-tech tool. Here, you know, some 2x6 and some old handles. And we tamp that into place. We've got another holder here, you know, that goes over top of it and it's easy to pull out. This is what we cover on our day 3 of our hands-on in the afternoon. We call day 3 our learning day. We do a little bit more tamp in place, and then we really get into making some test batches, showing people different mixers that they can use, and they get to tamp into form so they get an idea of how to make their own samples.
Nice. Now, how can people find out more about you and follow along for upcoming workshops and things that you have going on?
Well, we are, you know, we're always one of the instructors at the Hemp Build Masterminds course that the Hemp Build
we're glad to have you.
Doing.
Yep.
And then on our website at our seminars and event link, we update that as we have more events coming online and more educational seminars that we do. Right now, we've got up there our 3 hempcrete introduction seminars that we're doing, our Lime 101 classes, our Adobe floor class, and our finish line plaster class that we do the end of May.
There's nothing like being on an actual job site and getting the rhythm of the roll of an actual job, things vibrate at a different frequency, and it's good to learn how things come and flow and how the whole thing comes together. So look for Tim, and then we'll see you soon.